One of the simplest changes I've ever applied with my patients has made a surprisingly big difference in protecting cardiovascular health. What's interesting is, no new medication was added, no dose was increased. There was no need to change diet or start a complex exercise program. The only thing that changed was the timing of taking blood pressure medication. In many cases, within just about 48 hours, the body began to receive better protection, especially in the early morning, a time when previously there often wasn't enough medication in the bloodstream to effectively control blood pressure. This isn't a tip or personal trick. It's directly related to a medical concept called chronotherapy, which means adjusting the timing of medication to align with the body's natural biological rhythms. However, there's an important reality that many people overlook. Recommendations to take blood pressure medication in the morning have existed for decades, back when the characteristics of these drugs were very different from what they are today. And the key question is the time you're taking your medication truly aligned with when your body needs protection the most? Before you consider changing the timing of your medication, there's one extremely important thing to clarify. You should not switch your blood pressure medication from morning to evening on your own without first consulting your doctor. Not all blood pressure medications are suitable for nighttime use. Some work differently and may pose risks if taken at the wrong time. For example, diuretics can cause you to wake up multiple times b'mahalak the night to urinate, disrupting sleep and increasing the risk of falls. Some medications that slow the heart rate may cause it to drop too low during the night. Older adults may be at higher risk of orthostatic hypotension if blood pressure falls too low ethne sleep pressure. From a medical perspective, adjusting medication timing depends on several factors: the specific type of medication you're taking, your underlying conditions, cardiovascular disease, kidney issues, diabetes, etc., how stable your blood pressure is throughout the day, your risk of nighttime complications or falls. That's exactly why the concept of chronotherapy always goes hand in hand with personalized treatment. Instead of making changes on your own, a safer approach is to monitor your blood pressure at home, especially in the early morning. Keep track of any symptoms, headaches, dizziness, rapid heartbeat, etc., and bring this information to your doctor for discussion. With sufficient information, your doctor can help adjust the timing of your medication in a way that is both safe and more effective. Your blood pressure is not a fixed number throughout the day. In reality, it fluctuates continuously according to a natural 2-4-hour biological cycle known as the circadian rhythm. Around midday, especially after eating, blood pressure tends to drop slightly. This happens because the body prioritizes sending blood to the digestive system to process food. You may feel a bit slower or sleepy. This is completely normal. By late afternoon, blood pressure at it rises again, creating a second energy peak in the day. This is when many people feel more alert and productive. At night, as the body enters a resting state, blood pressure typically decreases by about 10–20% compared to daytime levels. This is a crucial period that allows the heart, brain, and blood vessels to recover. However, the most important change happens in the early morning, when blood pressure begins to rise rapidly again to prepare the body for waking up. These patterns show that blood pressure changes are not random, and the timing of medication should align with this natural rhythm to achieve optimal effectiveness. Your blood pressure is not a fixed number throughout the day. In reality, it constantly changes, according to a natural 2-4-hour biological cycle known as the circadian rhythm. Around midday, especially after eating, blood pressure tends to drop slightly. This happens because the body prioritizes sending blood to the digestive system to process food. You may feel a bit slower or sleepy. That's a completely normal response. By late afternoon, blood pressure usually rises again, creating a second energy peak of the day. This is when many people feel more alert and productive. At night, as the body enters a resting state, blood pressure typically decreases by about 10–20% compared to daytime levels. This is a critical period that allows the heart, brain, and blood vessels to recover. However, the most important shift happens in the early morning when blood pressure begins to rise rapidly again to prepare the body for waking up. These patterns show that changes in blood pressure are not random, and medication timing should align with this natural rhythm to achieve optimal effectiveness. The issue isn't just what medication you take, but whether it's still working at the exact time your body needs it most. When you take your blood pressure medication in the morning, most medications reach their peak concentration in the bloodstream a few hours later. This means their strongest effect typically occurs around midday or early afternoon. After that, the drug level gradually declines as the body metabolizes and eliminates it. By the early hours of the next morning, the amount of medication in your bloodstream may have dropped to a low level. For some short or intermediate acting drugs, the effect may no longer be strong enough. Meanwhile, this is exactly the time when blood pressure begins to rise rapidly. Cardiovascular risk is at its highest during the day. This misalignment can create a gap in protection. When your body needs blood pressure control the most, the medication may be at its weakest. This doesn't happen to everyone, but in some patients, it may explain why morning blood pressure remains high even when it's well controlled during the day. That's also why doctors are paying more attention to adjusting the timing of medication, not just the dosage of more commons. There's a fairly common reality. Many older adults experience uncomfortable symptoms in the morning, but assume they're just a normal part of aging. You may wake up with a heavy head or a dull ache at the back of your neck. Your heart may beat faster than usual, sometimes with a mild sense of palpitations. When you first stand up, you might feel dizzy or slightly unsteady for a few seconds. These signs often don't last long, so they're easy to ignore. However, from a medical perspective, they may be linked to what's known as a morning blood pressure surge, a rapid rise in blood pressure as the body transitions from sleep to wakefulness. In some people, especially older adults or those with long-standing hypertension, this increase can be more pronounced. If not well controlled, it can place extra strain on the blood vessels and the heart right from the start of the day. The important point is, these symptoms are not always obvious, and not everyone recognizes the connection between how they feel in the morning and their blood pressure options. So instead of overlooking them, pay attention to symptoms that repeat over time, especially if they occur around the same time each morning. These could be early warning signs that your blood pressure is not optimally controlled during one of the most critical times of the day. One of the common limitations in blood pressure management is that the timing of measurement doesn't always reflect the true level of risk. Most blood pressure readings are taken in the late morning or afternoon during clinic visits. These times often produce more stable results, which can make both patients and doctors feel reassured. However, the most dangerous period for blood pressure often occurs in the early morning whine. And this is also the time that is least frequently measured in real life. This can lead to a situation known as false normal, where clinic readings look good, but morning blood pressure is still elevated. From a clinical perspective, a more accurate assessment may include measuring blood pressure at home at different times throughout the day, especially right after waking up in the morning, or using 2 4-hour monitoring, ambulatory blood pressure monitoring. With more complete data over time, doctors can make more precise adjustments tailored to each individual. When morning hypertension goes unrecognized and uncontrolled for a prolonged period, its negative effects can gradually build up over time and often without obvious symptoms at first. Pressure on the vessel walls increases at a time when blood vessels are naturally constricting. The heart has to work harder to pump blood as the body is just waking up. Blood flow to the brain may be affected when regulation is unstable. Over time, this can increase the risk of stroke due to sudden pressure on the brain's blood vessels, heart attack as the heart is under greater strain in the morning, microvascular damage in the brain affecting memory and concentration. What's notable is, these changes often occur silently. Patients may still feel fine for most of the day. Because of this, many people mistakenly assume it's simply part of aging. However, from a medical perspective, this is not just a natural aging process. It is the result of blood pressure not being properly controlled at a critical time. Early recognition and appropriate adjustment can significantly reduce the risk of future cardiovascular events. In healthy individuals, blood pressure at night typically drops by about 10–20% compared to daytime levels. This phenomenon is known as nocturnal dipping and acts like a physiological rest period that allows the heart, blood vessels, and brain to recover after a full day of activity. As the body enters deep sleep, the sympathetic nervous system becomes less active, blood vessels relax, and the heart rate slows down. Blood pressure decreases naturally and remains stable. However, in many older adults or people with long-standing hypertension, this normal drop may not occur. Blood pressure can remain elevated throughout the night. This condition is referred to as non-dipping. Non-dipping is considered an independent risk factor for several cardiovascular events. It is associated with a higher risk of stroke, heart disease, and damage to the brain's blood vessels. In addition, when blood pressure does not decrease at night, the heart and brain do not get proper rest. The circulatory system remains under continuous strain for a full 24 hours. That's why controlling nighttime blood pressure is becoming an increasingly important focus in modern treatment strategies. In recent years, many large studies have explored whether taking blood pressure medication in the evening offers more benefits than taking it in the morning. Some observational studies and clinical trials suggest that taking medication in the evening may help improve nighttime blood pressure control. It may also reduce the early morning surge in blood pressure. Notably, one large-scale study found that the group taking medication in the evening had a lower rate of cardiovascular events. However, not all studies have shown the same results. Some trials found no significant difference in the risk of stroke or heart attack between morning and evening dosing. This suggests that the benefits of changing medication timing may depend on the individual teams. Currently, modern medical recommendations tend to avoid a one fixed dosing time for everyone approach. Instead, prioritize personalized treatment based on biological patterns and individual response. The key consensus is, taking medication in the evening is safe for many commonly used drugs, but it should be carefully evaluated before making any changes. This represents a shift from habit-based treatment to evidence-based, personalized care. Not all blood pressure medications should be moved to evening use. The timing of medication needs to be based on how each drug works, as well as the individual condition of each patient. Some groups of medications that are often considered for evening dosing include ACE inhibitors, such as lisinopril, ramipril, ARBs, such as losartan, valsartan, calcium channel blockers, such as amlodipine. These medications tend to have longer-lasting effects and interact with hormone systems that regulate blood pressure, so taking them in the evening may help improve nighttime control and reduce the morning surge in VIRE. However, diuretics are generally not suitable close to bedtime because they can cause nighttime urination, disrupt sleep, and increase the risk of falls. Some other cardiovascular medications, such as beta blockers, need careful consideration, as they may slow the heart rate too much during the night. Therefore, adjusting medication timing should always be personalized and should be done under medical guidance to ensure safety and optimal effectiveness. Beyond medication, evening habits can also significantly influence nighttime blood pressure and are often underestimated in real life. A high-salt dinner or processed foods can cause fluid retention, keeping blood pressure elevated during sleep. Certain fermented foods or those containing tyramine, such as aged cheese, may stimulate the nervous system, increasing heart rate and causing blood vessels to constricting. Sleep also plays a critical role. Snoring or sleep apnea can disrupt deep sleep cycles. This may trigger repeated stress responses throughout the night, preventing blood pressure from dropping as it normally should. In addition, drinking too much water before bedtime can lead to nighttime urination, disrupting sleep and affecting blood pressure stability. Exposure to negative news, stress, or electronic devices before sleep can increase sympathetic nervous system activity, making it harder for blood pressure to decrease. Therefore, managing nighttime blood pressure is not just about medication. It also involves combining treatment with lifestyle adjustments that align with the body's natural biological rhythm. When looking at the whole picture, the most important factor isn't just which medication you're taking, but whether it's working at the exact time your body needs it most. Blood pressure is not a fixed number. It changes according to the body's 2-4 hour biological rhythm, and cardiovascular risk is not evenly distributed throughout the day. The early morning is when blood pressure rises most rapidly. It is also the time when many cardiovascular events are most likely to occur. Therefore, if your medication is no longer effective during this critical window, its protective benefit may not be optimal. From a modern medical perspective, the approach is gradually shifting, not only focusing on what medication to take, but also on when to take it. This concept is known as chronotherapy, treatment that aligns with the body's natural biological rhythm. However, there is no single timing that works for everyone. Adjustments must be personalized based on each individual's condition. What you can start doing today: monitor your blood pressure at different times throughout the day. Pay attention to any unusual symptoms in the morning, and discuss your findings with your doctor based on your own real data. A small change, when made at the right time, can create a significant difference in protecting your long-term health of guys. If you often wake up with a headache or a rapid heartbeat, comment check below. If you're currently taking your blood pressure medication in the morning, comment am. And if you've ever tried changing the timing of your medication, comment PM. Don't forget to share this video with your loved ones, because sometimes a very small change can help prevent major health events in the future.